What's up, folks? It's been a minute, but I'm back. I'm back. All right, let me share my screen before we get into some stuff here, okay? All right, there we go. Okay, so first things first, okay? Let's see. We're gonna start off with when was this? I don't remember the date, but today is what? I don't even know today's date. In any event, a federal judge has ruled against Karen Reed. All right. Federal judge basically says that, they're not going to dismiss the two of the three charges against Karen Reed. What's up, Benji? Hope you had a good weekend. And those charges are going to proceed. I need to take a closer look at the federal case because I have actually neglected the federal case. And I mean, part of the reason is because they don't have cameras in the courtroom. So I don't exactly know what's going on and I'm nosy. But here's the thing again, federal courts, federal criminal courts often have a high conviction rate. The reason for that is because they're a little picky. They mostly pick cases they know they can win. Usually cases with solid evidence. But in any event, that's obviously two different jurisdictions. That is not an indication of what the verdict will be. That also does not. It's not an indication of what the verdict will be in the second retrial. Okay, but I thought it was interesting, and that's just from a what is this, from a federal perspective, because they usually have high conviction rates. Every once in a while, sure, somebody gets an acquittal, or a decision or verdict is overturned on appeal, but the feds, they usually dot their i's and cross their t's. The other thing that I also came across today that was pretty interesting is this or claim, rather, the claim by the prosecution. The prosecution in this case is pretty much claiming that the defense apparently instigated a federal probe into whether the district attorney's office properly handled the case. I don't know what basis they have for that, but but in any event, it's a long article. We can get into that later. The third thing, though, that is of interest to me, apparently Karen Reed has a docu series. What's up, Brooklyn? Shout out to Brooklyn. Brooklyn sent me an email this weekend. That was very exciting. That was the highlight of my weekend. But yeah, so Karen Reed has a new docu series out. I have no. I mean, I understand from a defense perspective. I think that they are doing this in order to reach out to potential jurors. Other than that, it really makes no sense. It makes no sense. Anyways, let's jump into Proctor. And I think Karen Reed is back in court tomorrow. Isn't tomorrow the 18th, I think? Let's get back into Proctor. Let me just see where we.
It does, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
There's a highlighted portion to the Proctor. Just focus your attention on that and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes. Let me check my email. Maybe somebody else.
Yes.
What did I do? Maybe somebody else emailed me. I've not checked my email in over 24 hours.
There's a highlighted portion to the Proctor. Focus your attention on that and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
You received after your interview, you received a phone call from Julie Albert about 6:17, 45 minutes after you began the interview and then left, correct?
Yes.
6:21, you called her back and you spoke for 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you discuss the interview?
I don't recall the contents of that conversation.
And of course, you never memorialized that in any report, did you? The fact that you had a subsequent phone call with Julie Albert on your personal cell phone.
I did not.
Let's turn to tab 5 one more time. If you could turn to page 2677. Trooper Proctor, after your interview with Julie Albert, your sister, Courtney, texted you. How did it go at Julie's? She was...
And then again, remember, Julie Albert, part of the Albert family. The decedent in this case was, I guess, he had his final moment at these folks' home. Let me see, what else? Or at least outside the house, right? And where we left off from last week, Proctor was cross-examined about whether he knew the Alberts, and his response was something along the lines of he did not have a relationship with the McCabe's. Okay, so that's where we are in case anybody's lost.
So nervous. You recall that?
Yes.
In fact, you responded to that with a...
Okay, so Brooklyn said it's coming out tonight. Yeah, I saw it was recommended to me, and I was just quickly going over. I mean, the algorithm has me, and I was going through it. But you know, according to the producers or the directors, they're saying that Karen Reed and her legal team had no input, which is hard to believe because listen, if I'm representing somebody, you're not. There is no way. Under no circumstances am I allowing an entire production to go on without me having a say-so as far as my client's concerned, unless the client just goes behind your back. Sometimes clients just do stuff.
Ha, 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 ha. 4 ha's, right?
I'm sorry.
And then why? Question mark.
What?
Correct?
Correct.
Then you responded, it was fine. Just a quick convo. Correct?
Yes.
You were literally reporting back to your sister about the progress of your investigation in a homicide investigation, weren't you?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Were you reporting your
That's the same
progress
question.
to your sister about your investigation?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah, that's the same
Your
question.
Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
That is the same question. And that's why I say cross-examination is really difficult. Because not everybody knows how to recover. Some folk can recover, like the screaming attorney from their California case. What was the? I forgot it. Lewin. Lewin was he recovered well.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Were you reporting your progress of your investigation back to your sister, Courtney Proctor?
No, absolutely not.
But you did say that the conversation, the formal interview went fine. It was just a quick convo, correct?
In response to my sister indicating Julie was nervous, that's why I told her it was fine.
Trooper Proctor, Julie and Chris Albert were not actually treated like witnesses in a murder investigation. They were treated more like friends. Wouldn't you agree?
Objection.
Is that true?
Absolutely not.
All right, so I'm going through this article, and it turns out that okay, Karen Reed is apparently saying that her doing this film is my testimony, I suppose. I guess because you're not, a defendant under these circumstances is not subject to cross-examination. I still do not understand. From a defense perspective, I do not understand why they have Karen Reed talking to the media unless the plan is, to try the actual case in what is this? A court of public opinion, in the hopes that somebody on the jury would have watched this documentary or somehow would have heard about Karen Reed. Other than that, it doesn't make sense to me. All right, let's move on.
We've established.
All right, and tonight we're only doing an hour, you guys. You guys should see my floors. Man, my floors are pristine. It looks very nice. In any event, I can only do an hour because I did not do my grocery shopping and I did not buy a whole bunch of stuff. So I have things to do. I'm gonna buy online and just pick some of this stuff up, but I have to do it when I'm not distracted.
You're very close with your sister, Courtney, correct?
Correct.
You provided your sister with updates on important advancements during the course of your.
Shout out to Brooklyn. Brooklyn said Brooklyn does not understand why she's giving interviews now. Apparently, she should wait for a book deal. Okay. Yeah. That I still the interviews don't make sense to me. They just don't make sense to me. Shout out to Jerome, Mr. Jerome from New York.
Investigation into this case. Did you not periodically?
You know how much sense you have in the hourglass, okay? Jerome, just be prepared.
I made her aware of newsworthy stuff.
That started as early as January 29th, 2022. Isn't that right?
Don't have the exact date or content.
Well, the day of the incident, you began letting her know that you were involved, that you had been assigned, what the status was,
Yes.
the nature of the case, the fact
Correct.
that it was a homicide, correct?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you discussed who the players were, who the people were that were involved. Isn't that right?
I just mentioned Julie and Chris were out earlier in the evening.
So you mentioned the Alberts, correct?
Julie and Chris, yes.
You also mentioned the McCabe's too, didn't you? At some point.
Yes.
Yeah. At 2668, Your Honor, that's the page that I'm referring to. Craig, you don't need to show this at this point. You write homicide, correct?
So I said 2668.
Jerome, my floors look so good. Literally, when I walked through the door today, I was like, man, look at you. Like, look at what you did. And like, it looks immaculate. I'm so proud of myself.
Correct. If I have my page number correct.
Yeah, my laundry got done. I think I'm going to switch my schedule. I'm going to start on Thursday and then finish up on Friday. But yeah, I think I'm going to switch it to Thursday.
We're on the right page, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
But I'm proud of myself.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
You wrote the word homicide. Is that right?
Yes.
You were describing to your sister the nature of the case that you are now assigned. Is that right?
Correct.
She wrote, the Canton thing is a homicide. And you wrote, don't say a word to anyone. Correct?
Correct.
And then she wrote, of course not. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And then you wrote what?
In the very least, it's suspicious.
In the very least, it's suspicious. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So at that time, at least at the time that you wrote that text on the 29th at 3:05 in the afternoon,
does a lot of
you
texting.
believed that the case was suspicious, right?
It was before we found significant pieces of evidence.
So you believed that it was suspicious that it may involve the Alberts, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
She then writes, this is your livelihood, didn't she?
She did.
Meaning this kind of case could make.
And they
or
do a
could
lot of
break your
texting,
career,
don't they?
Objection.
In Norfolk County, don't they have phone calls? Like, I mean, tap calls. But still, like, this is a phone call. I'm sorry. This is a phone call. I don't know why, or not even that. Like, maybe kitchen table talk. Why are they texting? Or why were they texting?
She then wrote, I would never mess with that. Is that right?
Like pillow talk.
Yes.
Your sister, Trooper Proctor, was warning you that you shouldn't be investigating a case in which close friends or family members were involved.
Objection.
Did you take her text? This is your livelihood. I would never mess with that, as a warning from her that you shouldn't be investigating a case that involved close friends.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Absolutely not. That was in response to don't say a word to anyone. And that was how I interpreted this is your livelihood. I would never mess with that.
A couple of minutes later, 3:07 on January 29th, you told your sister, quote, Julie and Chris were at the bar with the victim and girlfriend. Got to interview them. Is that right?
Yes.
So you were telling Courtney, your sister, updates on what your investigation advancements were, correct?
Just
you're
that
gonna
part.
interview, why you're going to interview him.
Yes.
She wrote, "You got to be kidding me,"
Too much.
correct?
Correct.
Did you take that as, "You got to be kidding me, the Alberts are involved"?
No, absolutely not.
And then you wrote, "It's not a big deal,"
I hope.
correct?
Correct.
And then she wrote, "I bet I know the person." Sounds like it is, meaning it is a big deal, right?
Oh no, let me leave it alone.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she meant with those messages there.
But she did write, "I bet I know the person," didn't she?
She did write that, yes.
And you know she's very close with the Alberts, correct?
And she's
So
close
I
to
see
Julie
where
and
they're
Chris.
going.
You then wrote, "No, I meant," or you wrote "not." I think you meant "no." "I meant that they were at the bar with him," correct?
Yes.
She writes, "Yeah, I got that part." And then she continues on, "But I know a lot of their friends," correct?
This was the
Yes.
gossip of the
Did
town.
you see a problem in this exchange?
Nah.
Nothing jumped out at me.
Your sister's literally explaining that your family friends are suspects or possible suspects in a murder investigation that you're in charge of. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Actually, and this is what I've said before about what is this? Law enforcement witnesses, being trained witnesses. So look at what Proctor does here, okay? So obviously, Proctor, this is the distinction. An ordinary individual, a lay person, a lay witness, being asked the same questions would not respond in the same manner. Either they'll just respond the answer or they'll behave like Raleigh, okay? But Proctor here pretty much signals to the prosecutor, to Lally, to object because he realizes that this is a question he shouldn't be answering. So look at this. I like, you see the little eye contact.
Possible suspects
This is a
in a
training.
murder investigation that you're in charge of. Correct?
We need the full question. Hold on.
Nothing jumped out at me.
Your sister's literally explaining that your family friends are
Family
suspects
friends.
or possible suspects in a murder investigation that you're in charge of. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah. He does the eye contact. Like, are you actually going to object or something? Big shout out to Sarah and shout out to all the pancakes, okay? I missed that the first
On January
time.
30th, 2022 at 9:13 in the morning,
Well,
your
I
sister
don't-
texted you again,
Jerome, did you have a good
Quote.
weekend?
"Jesus Christ, the party was at one of the Alberts." Correct?
Yes.
And you two were discussing the fact that, to put it in her words, "Jesus Christ, these are our friends," right?
Objection.
He's gonna say no.
Sustained.
How did you take her "Jesus Christ, the party was at one of the Alberts" with 2 exclamation points? How did you take that?
That's
Shout out to Sarah. What's the answer?
her. The way I'm interpreting my sister's text messages was that surprised and shocked that this is where Mr. O'Keefe was found on the front lawn of that residence.
Could it be, "Jesus Christ, we know these people"?
Jerome, we all like pancakes, okay? So shout out to the pancakes, all butter, no syrup.
Again, that's how I read that message.
You don't deny, Trooper Proctor, that you were routinely disclosing to your sister pretty intimate details about the investigation, correct?
I wouldn't say intimate. I'd say newsworthy stuff.
That's
or,
what, how did I
just
know?
generic, nothing.
How did I
say
know?
intimate, I'd
How
say
did I know this man
news-
was gonna say newsworthy? Because this is a trained. This is. He even appears really prepped. This is a
Deny,
trained
Trooper
witness.
Proctor, that you were routinely disclosing to your sister pretty intimate details about the investigation, correct?
I wouldn't say intimate. I'd say newsworthy stuff or just
Okay.
generic, nothing
Well,
too specific.
newsworthy, would you have gone to the news at this point in the investigation? Would you have gone to the news and said, "Julie and Chris were at the bar. I got to go interview them"?
That's a good
Objection.
question.
Allow that. Is that what you do, Trooper?
No, I would not do that, sir.
So it's not newsworthy. These were details, internal details about the investigation, weren't they?
Yes.
And you were sharing them with your sister, Courtney Proctor, correct?
That was good. What I like about that question is because, or at least that line of questioning, what's his name? Jackson did not let up. Those are the type of cross examiners that I like. You don't let an individual off the hook just because they are difficult or they're not giving you the responses that you're hoping for. And under these circumstances, Proctor pretty much had to concede that it's not newsworthy. So good cross.
Correct.
And Courtney Proctor's best friend is Jillian Daniels, and one of her closest friends is Julie Albert, right?
Correct.
Then on February 1st, 2022, your sister texts you that she's actually meeting with Julie Albert, didn't she?
Yes.
And that was before you ever interviewed Julie, correct?
Yes.
So it appears that Courtney was providing information to Julie of some sort before you were able to actually
You don't
interview
know
her.
that.
Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You don't know that.
She was, well, let me ask it this way. You don't deny that Courtney was meeting with Julie before you interviewed her, correct?
Correct.
And you don't deny that you had been providing information about the case with Courtney before you interviewed Julie, correct?
Provided information that Julie and Chris were at the waterfall and I needed to interview them. Yes, that's the information I shared.
And who knows what you shared verbally, not in text messages, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you, we have text messages, Trooper Proctor. Did you share other information on phone calls?
Okay, what's the problem, Jerome? So right now, the questions, the text messages that are being referred to are between Proctor and his sister, okay? And pretty much what, let me go back a little bit, okay? I'm going to go back to the basics. So the decedent in this case, John O'Keefe, he died on the premises of the Alberts, okay? The Alberts, remember that. The Alberts, there are a few people you have to know. You have to know Karen Reed. You have to know the Alberts. The Alberts, there are a lot. There's a Julie Albert. There's a Chris or something. There's a kid. There's a teenager. I forgot his name. They just know the Alberts. The Alberts, the husband is an officer, or at least he was part of law enforcement, okay? John O'Keefe, he was also part of law enforcement. He was an officer, okay? These are law enforcement buddies. They were out drinking prior to this man dying on, what is this? I want to say the sidewalk, but it's more the front yard. I suppose that's probably a better way of putting it. So this guy, Proctor, the lead investigator in this case, is communicating with his sister. So these are text exchanges between him and the sister. The sister's first name is Courtney, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So what the defense is trying to show with these text messages is that this officer, the lead investigator, was feeding his sister information, okay? Information about an ongoing investigation as it relates to the Alberts. And the sister, Courtney, Proctor's sister, her name is Courtney, she has a close relationship with the Alberts. What the defense is really trying to show is that the investigation was not proper. They're trying to show that it was not proper by pretty much showing that there is a great possibility that the Alberts were responsible for the decedent's death, okay? That they were responsible for the victim's death in this case. And if the jury is to believe that the Alberts possibly could have caused caused the death of John O'Keefe, then it is questionable that this man would be feeding information to, his sister, where she's potentially relaying that information to persons of interest or even potential suspects in this case. Like, if you don't understand that, then you need to come up here and ask direct questions. But I'm trying to I guess fill in the gaps based on where I think you might be lost. But if that helped, let me know. If it didn't, then come up here and ask the question. Okay, so Brooklyn says, why is he not looking at the jury? Because he got caught lying. It can be one of two things. Here's the thing, because even when somebody is on the stand, right, as this man is, he's subject to scrutiny. So if he does not look at the jury under these circumstances, somebody might say, "Oh, he's lying," so that's why he's not looking at the jury. If he looks at the jury, somebody like ASAP 12V, then it's like, "Oh, he's really coach and he's trying to play into the jury. He's playing for the jury." So there's no winning either way. As far as why he's not looking at the jury, maybe he's looking at the person that's actually asking the questions. So yeah, there's just no way. There's no way around it.
With Courtney?
No.
So the only information we're to believe, you talk to her 5 to 6 times a day. The only information that you claim you shared with Courtney about the details of the investigation are contained in these texts, which we have.
Objection.
I'll let you answer that. Can you answer that?
The information that I share with my sister contained within these texts, yes.
You never discussed
Why didn't you just say yes?
This
Why did you have
case,
to repeat part of the
verbally.
question?
over the phone or in person with Courtney.
On the phone, I'm sure there's been conversations that's things that have been newsworthy items that have gone to the news. There's definitely been conversations in that regard.
Then before you ever interviewed Julie, your sister informed you that Julie actually wanted to get you a gift for your participation on this case, correct?
Let me see. What's Brooklyn saying? So Brooklyn's saying Albert, Higgins, Proctor, Bev, Alan Jackson, Alessi, Reeds, Brandon, I believe are all the names in this case. What are you referring to? And I have a question for you. Not that it's directly for Brooklyn, but I have a question for, again, I've said it before. Hopefully Old Bag pops up. If not, if she pops up tomorrow or if she's on, shout out to the replay crew, okay? But I do have a question about the individuals that have been, or the folks that have formed an opinion that Bev Canoni is biased, okay? In light of the federal court's decision not to dismiss the 2 counts against Karen Reed, does that mean that the federal judge is biased as well, or what exactly? The one thing that I don't understand is, I'm not here to assess judges' bias, but I just do not. Again, from the lay perspective, over and over again, I've heard this notion that judges are biased or that they are corrupt. I'm thinking again, as it relates to what's a kid out of I think it's Broward County. What's his name? I forgot. The rapper YNW Melly. There we go. I remember there was a time when we covered that and folks were like, "Oh, the judge is corrupt." And now for Bev Canoni, folks are like, "Oh, she's biased, she's this and that." But in light of the federal court's decision not to dismiss the same counts, the 2 charges against Karen Reed, are people then arguing that the federal judge is biased, or are there different factors and circumstances that lead people to believe that Bev Canoni is biased? To me, she's snappy when it comes to both sides. I don't necessarily see her treating one side better than the other.
Yes.
What's
Tab
the question? I'm
Fox
sorry.
told you that Julie actually wanted to get you a gift. Julie,
Comments-worthy
Hold on.
items that have gone to the news. There's definitely been conversations in that regard.
then before you ever interviewed Julie, your sister informed you that Julie actually wanted to get you a gift
That's crazy.
for your participation on this case, correct?
Yes.
And tab 5,
What kind of gift? Like, what kind of gift? This is some small town stuff, okay? Yeah, small town stuff. What kind of gift was Julie going to get Proctor? I just, Hmm. I'd like to know what his response was. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't remember this specific question. There's some aspects I remember this cross examination, but that question is not the one that stood out to me.
Let's turn to page 2672 to Proctor. With court's permission, may we publish?
Yeah, and
Yes.
the reason why I'm interested in the redirect is because I'd like to know what the follow up to that was. The proctor say I'm not allowed to accept gift. The proctor say, sure, I want a Mercedes Benz. Like, what was his response? Because there's a reason why the defense is not asking for what his response was. I'm assuming it was not favorable to the defense.
Page 2672. You see the text from you, what's up?
Yes.
And what's Courtney Proctor's response?
Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said, when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift. And I respond with, get Elizabeth one.
Hang on just a second. Let's take them one at a time.
Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted to know what the response is.
You were asked about this on direct examination by Mr. Lally, right?
Correct.
And you looked at the jurors, paused, and said, I never asked for a gift. I never received a gift. Elizabeth never asked for a gift. She never received a gift. You remember that?
Correct.
Okay.
You said you never asked for a gift, correct?
Correct.
What's your next text?
Get Elizabeth one.
Get Elizabeth.
Response going to be, I never asked a gift for myself, but I suggested that the gift go to my wife.
One what?
Referring to a gift.
Right. So you did, in fact, ask for a gift, didn't you?
For my wife, who had been home with my children for the last 10 nights.
From Julie Albert
Yes.
for your participation on this case.
I don't know if that's yes.
Well, Courtney Proctor answers that question by saying, because I guess her and Chris were friends and John, and she's so proud of you for leading this investigation, correct?
Correct.
You're aware during the course of your investigation. Well, let me ask it this way.
So Brooklyn, let me go back here. So Brooklyn says the argument is that if the jury came to a decision on count 2 and 3 not guilty, then double jeopardy applies. You're going to have to take a look at the actual procedures in Massachusetts. I believe. Let's go back. Let's go back to Judge. We're going to hold on. Fulton County. What's a judge? Let's go back to Judge McBurney. I believe it was 3 weeks ago. Maybe my timeline is off, but 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a trial in Judge McBurney's courtroom. Okay. The case, I don't remember the defendant's name. Let me try and find it while we're on here, because again, I cannot show Judge McBurney's stuff on here unless they change the rules. But let me quickly go to his channel, Judge McBurney. Let's see. They changed because previously they used to have a when I first started watching Judge McBurney, he used to have a disclaimer on here which pretty much barred people from sharing the live, because this is like a real courtroom, okay? And in a real courtroom, you're not out there filming with your phone. Let me see if I can find. Let me see. I've watched so many. I think it's Lawson. Is it Lawson? I think it's Lawson. Hold on. Yeah, I think it was Lawson. I think it's Georgia v. Lawson. Yep, because we have what's a public defender? Shout out to all public defenders. They have a public defender in that courtroom that I actually really like. Her name is Rios. I think it's Rios, if I'm not mistaken. I think her last name is Rios. In any event, that case, I'll give you guys the date. So it's called State v. Lawson, LAWS as in spaghetti, ON as in Nancy. So it's State v. Lawson, trial day 1. And then this was live on February 4th. Okay, so February 4th, that's when that trial went on. You don't have to watch the entire trial, but go to, how long did the trial actually last? Was it 2 days? Hold on. 3 days. Yep. So it was a 3 day trial. On day 3, I need you to watch the very end of that trial and see what the, shout out to all public defenders again, see what the public defender did. In that case, it came back that the jury was hung. Okay. It was a hung jury. And they inquired as to the charges, which charges they could not come to an agreement on. And then I believe it was, I believe it was, let me think. Because this defendant was charged with 2 counts. The first count was the more serious one, where it was alleged that he shot his, I don't know, his baby mama, his wife, somebody. He shot somebody, okay, that he was in an intimate relationship with. So that was the first count. The second count would have been, I'm paraphrasing because different jurisdiction, but it would have been similar to endangering the welfare of a child, but like, a DV version of that, like domestic violence version of that. So here's the thing. The jury had reached a decision on 1 count, and they were hung on the other. If you go watch that trial, at the very end, the public defender made sure that the verdict was in fact on the record. They made sure of that. And so the court entered a not guilty verdict on the first count. And then obviously it was hung on the second count. So the prosecution gets to decide if they retrial or not. From my perspective, from a defense perspective, the defense attorney should have done that in this Karen Reed trial. It is my humble opinion, okay, my legal opinion, that they failed their client in that respect. When they found out it was a hung jury, they should have determined what they were hung on and if they had reached a decision on any of the counts. But here's my other theory. There's a great possibility that the defense did not want to do that. And the reason why they did not want to do that is because under those circumstances, when you hear that a jury is hung on, count 3 or whatever, but they've reached a decision on 2 and 3, you do not know if they've reached a verdict of guilt or not guilty, or they're quitting. You don't know that. So I would like to think that, for one, which is probably the worst, is if they just did not know to have the verdict on the record, or 2, if it was a strategy for them to later come back and um, file a motion, or maybe they just were not sure if it's guilt or acquittal. Because if the defense, again, if from the defense perspective, if you do have the verdict on the record and it turns out to be guilty, then you've pretty much kind of hung your own client. Shout out to all public defenders. Yeah, that Miss Rios, I think that's her name. I know it's like a Hispanic last name. I think it's Rios, but she's really good. She's really good. Okay. If you play just an audio, it's not about being mad, but I went on the channel again and I see that they removed it. But what I had seen previously, they had like a little disclaimer on here that told people that you cannot share this material, blah blah blah. I stay away from crimes. I stay away. Like, I don't no, I don't like, I want my man to have like a little conviction or something, like nothing serious, like have some speeding tickets, driving without insurance, like be guilty of being a pimp, something along those lines. But yeah, I stay away from things that get me in trouble. All right. Brooklyn says, "Oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't know it's a blind verdict." From what I remember, I mean, we can go back to the verdict because I've only watched it in live. I did not go back and watch the Karen Reed. I did not go back and watch the Karen Reed verdict. But as I recall it, I do not remember. I almost said Alex. I don't even know who Alex is. I do not remember Alan Jackson or Yannetti asking for the verdict. I do not remember that, but we can take a look. Let me make a note for myself. Yeah, I do not remember them asking. And we can watch that tomorrow as well, because again, my regular schedule is Monday through Thursday from 8:30. But then once the trial actually begins, then we're kind of going every day. What's Jerome laughing at? All right, let's go.
Foundational question. Do you pull phone records as a matter of course in investigations of this nature?
Yes.
Did you pull phone records in this case variously?
The phone records of
Of anybody? Witnesses, suspects,
not witnesses, Mr.
individual people, whatever?
We didn't pull full phone records of witnesses.
Listen, shout out to Kingston, Jamaica. Yesterday, I got my hair done. Okay, I went to an actual professional. Okay, I got my hair done, and it was a great. Now I'm just going off for talking about random things. But in any event, because I remember when there was somebody up here that says that my accent is not that deep. Because the lady that did my hair, she's Jamaican, and she switched into patois though, so that's why. In any event, I was like, okay, yeah, my accent's not, it's not that deep, but shout out to Jamaica. All right. What notebook, Jerome?
Victim
and Miss Reed.
During the course of your investigation, did you become aware that there were 67 calls between Julie Albert and your sister, Courtney, in the months following?
They were gossiping. They were gossiping.
John O'Keefe's death?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Did you become aware during the course of your investigation of the level of communication between Julie Albert, one of the witnesses on the case, and your sister?
No,
Objection.
it's not.
I'm sustaining that objection. You can come try and convince me otherwise if you want, Mr. Jackson.
I can ask it a different way, Your Honor. Thank you. Did you ever seek information about phone calls and communications
That's not
that
a good
Julie Albert
question.
may or may not have been having with anybody else?
No.
Didn't
Yeah.
download her phone?
Yeah, that's not a good question because he's gonna say no unless Jackson actually has evidence to impeach him with. Otherwise, that's not a good question because it's obvious he's going to say no.
Phone, didn't seek her phone records.
No.
Did Courtney ever tell you that she had consistent
Jerome, what are you
communications with
saying?
Julie Albert? Or did you know that otherwise?
Objection.
Wait, what's the question? Let's go back.
Did Courtney ever tell you that she had consistent communications with Julie Albert? Or did you know that otherwise?
Objection.
Objection.
That's definitely objectionable.
During the months, let me ask it this way. During the months following John O'Keefe's death, you did continue to have consistent communications with Courtney, though, didn't you?
Yes, I speak to my sister every day.
Trooper Proctor, were you using Courtney, your sister, as an intermediary between you
It's a good
and Julie
question.
Albert?
Absolutely not.
You were well aware from the very beginning of your investigation that Colin Albert was, in fact, at 34 Fairview
Oh, that's a kid's name. I said Christopher earlier. Yeah, Colin.
on the night in question, right?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you testified at the grand jury, the state court grand jury on this case, that you knew that Colin Albert was at the location, right?
Yes.
Did you make any concerted efforts to keep Colin Albert's name out of this investigation?
No.
Why is it, Trooper Proctor, that Colin Albert's name fails to appear in a single police report until July 18, 2023?
Colin Albert was not at the home. He left at approximately 12:10 a.m. before anyone from the waterfall had arrived back there.
Let's look at, obviously, part of the job of an investigator is to be as complete and thorough as possible, correct?
Yes.
You don't just take someone's word for something. You look for corroborating evidence, don't you?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you wouldn't take a witness's word for almost anything in a reasonable investigation, would you?
Objection.
Would you?
If-
You can have that.
If I find the witness to be credible and have no reason to lie, then yes, I would take their word.
Would you try to support a witness's statement or witnesses?
Yeah, this case has a lot of moving parts, but it's also it's one of those cases where it's not as good of a case as the ASAP Rocky case for the defense, because the ASAP Rocky case, from the beginning, I kept saying that this is a good defense case because you have a lot of angles to work with. With this case, there are certain aspects of the trial that kind of make you raise your eyebrows, right? A lot of it, again, goes back to Proctor, and I think, my personal opinion, not the prosecution, the defense should base its case. The entirety of the defense case should be on Proctor. That's where they should put. That's where they should put their what is this? Their focus, because the first time around, their focus was on, it was kind of on everybody, on every witness. But I think that they need to make Proctor, they need to turn this into Proctor being on trial as opposed to Karen Reed. That's just my thought. Okay, Jerome says it's like a haunted house. Okay. He's, what on earth, Jerome? How did you count? I mean, there's a drinking problem, but as far as to the weird stuff, I don't know, unless people are swingers or something. Shout out to all the swingers, but I don't know. I don't get that. I just get small town. I don't know. Now Brooklyn saying that was a huge house party, but okay, or a huge party house. Uh, Brooklyn says not really, because 5 people can be suspects in this case. I disagree with that. And the reason why I disagree with that is because, again, when I looked at Colin the first time around that Colin testified, I was looking forward to that testimony because there was a preview that this was some violent kid and he had a temper, this and this and that. But to me, that was not enough to turn him into the suspect. And even when it comes to McCabe, to me, that is not, it just wasn't enough. And here's the thing. I should not say this about the Alberts. Let me leave them alone. I was going to say something that's not nice, so I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. Yeah, Jerome, shout out to everybody. Benji said his aunt and uncle are swingers. How do you know that, Benji? Brooklyn said to stay away. How do you know that, Benji? And I don't doubt you. Maybe, I mean, it's your family. It's your family, so they probably are, right? But I don't know. How do you know that?
Is with an apostrophe, S apostrophe, their statements with corroborating evidence.
Yeah, potentially.
That corroborating evidence might be talking to other witnesses, right?
Yes.
It might be looking at cell phone data, correct?
Correct.
It might be looking at a witness's statement or witness.
I would take their word.
Would you try to support a witness's statement or witnesses with an apostrophe, S apostrophe, their statements with corroborating evidence?
Yeah, potentially.
That corroborating evidence might be talking to other witnesses, right?
Yes.
It might be looking at cell phone data, correct?
Correct.
It might be looking at geolocation data, correct?
Yes.
You're trying to find out where someone is. You might pull information from their phone concerning geolocation data, right?
Yes.
You might pull cell tower information, right?
If there's a need for it.
There's myriad ways that you can find out whether someone's telling the truth about where they were and when they were there, right?
Right.
Let's take a look at your handwritten notes from your interview with Juliana Nagel on October 5th, 2022. This should be tab 7. Oh,
What is it for identification?
my mistake. I thought it was in the tab. It's not. This is a 3-page document. I'll just refresh his recollection with this.
Okay, show Mr. Lally and then go ahead.
Of course. let me ask a foundational question, Trooper Proctor. Do you remember exactly what's in your notes from a conversation that you had on October 5th, 2022?
I don't know.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at your handwritten notes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It does, sir.
First, let me just ask you if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir.
Are those your notes, your handwritten notes from this, at least from partially from this investigation?
Yes.
Does that reflect your handwritten notes?
I'm sorry. Benji said Benji said he was getting relationship advice from the aunt at what kind of party and what did she tell you? Good Jerome. And, how old were you when your aunt was giving you this relationship advice? So Benji said she was telling me how my uncle likes looking at other people to hook up with. I have questions for them to hook up with, or just for the uncle to. I have questions.
Based on the conversation that you had.
Oh, and when your aunt told you that, how did you respond? What does that have to do with you, though? Like, what kind of advice were you seeking? What kind of advice were you seeking? What led your aunt to give you this information? But shout out to all the swingers, though.
Juliana Nagel, on or about October 5th, 2022.
Swinging is not for the for the faint-hearted. Okay, not one bit. You have to be really secure to agree to that. Dang, so your aunt was just announcing. I don't know. Shout out to Auntie though, because I like the auntie who keeps it real. So I should have been fast forwarding. I'm just distracted. I'm changing locations. All right. Wait. When are you supposed to propose? Apparently, Jerome's really tickled. So, and a big shout out to Big Auntie.
Is this going to be an accurate representation or accurate copy of your notes from your interview with Juliana Nagel?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I changed my mind. I would like to have this marked as next.
Introduced into evidence?
Correct.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the objection sustained.
Is it true that in your...
That's it. Oh, listen, shout out to LSU. Okay, this is March Madness. You guys know how I feel about LSU, the Tigers. I'm excited. I don't know that we win, but whatever.
Handwritten notes, you list the following individuals based on Juliana Nagel's conversation with you as being at 34 Fairview. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a different world out here. It's I don't know. All I'm gonna say is shout out to Auntie. How old is your aunt, by the way, and how old is the uncle?
Juliana, Mary Kent, Emily Fabiano, Courtney Alba, Colin Albert, and Sarah Levinson. Correct?
Correct.
You then drafted a report memorializing your conversation with Juliana Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And that report is a formal memorialization of your interview based on your investigation, correct?
Yes, a summary of the conversation for the interview.
And that report is the thing that's turned over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes,
And the report is the thing that's entered into discovery and provided to the defense.
correct.
And isn't it true that in that report, you list the individuals that were at 34 Fairview as Brian, Mary Kent, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the one name that was left out of your report
You, Colin?
on that list?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Was there one name left out? Break that down, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Isn't it true that in your report, you excluded the one name, Colin Albert, from the list of individuals that were in your notes?
Yes, because he arrived later in the evening. The other females were there from the start.
At the time that you wrote your report, the formal report, this one,
Mhm.
you did not believe that your handwritten notes were also going to be disclosed, did you?
No, I knew that was a possibility.
Okay.
When you finally did
Oh, in the
get around
40s?
to interviewing Colin Albert,
Dang, they're young. I see. Oh. Yeah, sure. Now, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, sure. Sure. That's actually pretty young. Jerome said, shout out to all the swingers. Brooklyn, why? What difference does it make if they have kids or don't have kids? Listen, people have different types of relationships and partnership comes in a number of different forms. I do not know that there's one specific form or that individuals should conform to, a specific ideology or relationship. So, Brooklyn's probably going to talk about liberals, so let me move on. But I'm like, listen, whatever people want to do in their bedrooms, you should go ahead and do it. It's your stuff.
you personally conducted that interview, did you not?
Yes,
Colin
along with
Albert
Trooper
told
Zach
you-
I
Clark.
was thinking about there was a question during professional, was it called professional ethics or something along those lines? There was some question that was often posed by one of my professors, and that question always had to do with people's like bedroom activities. I'm like, why do people want to be in other folks' bedrooms? Like, people are grown, let people do their stuff. Like, what? Let people do whatever it is they want to do.
One at a time.
I'm sorry.
Finish your answer.
I don't know, Jerome.
Please go ahead.
Yes, along with Trooper Zach Clark in my office.
We have
Colin Albert
like
told you
2
that he
3
was
minutes.
picked up by Allie McCabe from his uncle's house at 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Allie McCabe also told you that she picked up Colin Albert at 34 Fairview at 12:10 a.m. and then dropped him off at his house, correct?
Correct.
And then she indicated that she went straight home after that, right?
Yes.
Did you conduct any further investigation to determine whether Colin Albert and Allie McCabe were actually telling the truth about that time?
We did not.
That was a good question.
You just took them at their word, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you realize that you had a forensic image at the time. You had a forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone in your possession, right?
Correct.
You're also aware that she has a Life 360 app on her phone that tracks
Jerome.
the location of Allie McCabe, correct?
Not 30.
I was not aware the app tracked her daughter. I knew of the Life 360 app, but I wasn't aware of the capability of a tracking.
Yeah, this whole app thing, this Live 360, apparently it's a pretty common. Again, I'm not really on the internet like that, but it was my first time hearing it in this trial. No, Jerome, we cannot do 30 minutes. Shout out to all the swingers. I have a lot to do. I still have to iron. I have to do my dishes. I definitely have to feed myself. I need to talk to my man, see if he wants to turn into a swinger. What else? Yeah, and I have to shop. I have some stuff to do that if I don't do them tonight, they're probably not gonna get done. And I need to buy my kids Bob concert tickets. I need to buy them before they're gone. So yeah, okay, 15 minutes. Oh my goodness, Jerome, I can do 15 minutes. Let's do 15 minutes because Benji is about to give us some more information. I'm setting a timer for 15 minutes and 15 minutes for real. Okay, 15 minutes. Okay, so let's see. Benji says, I think my DNA is made for cold water. Oh, weather, I'm sorry. Because the other day my cousin was freezing outside, even though I was wishing it was cold. What on earth is going on, Benji? Benji, are you okay? Because you're giving us a little too much detail. I mean, you should come to Alaska. How about that? Come to Alaska. Okay, Jerome, do you want 15 minutes or do you not? Okay. And Jerome said it was a joke. Okay, because it was a joke, I guess I can go. All right. Okay. I love you guys too. I'll be back tomorrow. Again, we're just trying to get through Proctor. We're trying to Louisiana. They have a scheduled execution tomorrow. No bueno. That is not good. Yeah. Somebody's getting executed. Unless something happens, something else happens. But okay, shout out to New York though. I'm about to be out. Jerome, Brooklyn, Benji. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to start off with the verdict. Okay, we're gonna start off with a moment. There was no real verdict though. I guess when the court announced that there was a hung jury, and then I'm going to tomorrow's kind of a busy day. Let me see. Because again, I don't want to take chances by sharing McBurney on here, but let me go narrow down on the exact timestamp. Okay. I'll narrow down on the exact timestamp and then I'll post it. I guess I'll just give the timestamp at the beginning of this video or tomorrow's video. And then we can, start off with that. So let me see. Okay. All right. Jerome just, sharing love with everybody as usual. The Monica case, I think I should have actually watched that case because I went on here today, like I went on YouTube on my phone, and the trial is still going on. The trial is still, unless I think it's the same case. Isn't this the case out of California? Let's see. Yep, that's her. Because I literally came up here today. I'm like, wait, they are still on the stand. I don't know. I probably should have kept up with that case, but I did not. And it's too late for me to keep up with that case now. So I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for Karen Reed to start. I don't want to start any new trials in between because that's just gonna throw things off. All right, look at Benji. Benji's like, it was nice seeing y'all again. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by. All right. Yeah, but I cannot. I've seen it in passing. I've not actually honed in on the actual trial. I just know that the trial has been going on for an extended period of time. But I'm not about to switch over to that. Yeah, because I'm focused on Karen Reed for now. Karen Reed, and I really need to get started on what's the thing? Brian Koberger. Because they released the 911 calls this weekend, but again, the weekend I got into a lot, you guys. I did. Like my floors look so good. Anyways, I'm off. Good night, and shout out to all the swingers. All right, bye, you guys.